And and Murdoch insulted over Rambo wanting low tech. It's funny when he has that ray gun in his hand, making it look all badass, and Rambo, chirps up with the remake, oh, like right out of Star Wars. So Troutman tells Rambo to embrace the technology, but Rambo knows better. And God forbid he should lose all that equipment in the jump, and can't call to let them know he's okay, which is what he's supposed to do. So Murdoch tosses Rambo a tube with a bow and arrow in it, and Rambo replies, "Now you're talking." So Rambo goes outside to practice with the compound bow. Murdoch has concerned words with Troutman here in this scene. We get the kid prefers Boy Scout, and once again there's that reference from First Blood, the kid, falling into that same trap that Teasel fell into. We get that, this kid prefers Boy Scout stuff, slingshots and bows and arrows, that whole speech. And Troutman reassures him, while Rambo embraces his new light weapon respectfully, and it's kind of like, now they're putting the gun in Rambo's hand. He's going off to practice and to bring forth the Zen and make himself one and get back in touch with that war machine quality that we all know and love. We love it from a 72 novel, and we love it in mythology from First Blood 82. So it is very cool because, by Rambo going out to practice in the field with that bow and arrow before taking off on his trip back to hell, it's like a bond is formed between him and the weapon, which is a weapon he pretty much carries forth as long as possible. I would say besides his survival knife, it's his other weapon besides his mind, like the lead weapon. And that forms that bond of, I'm getting used to using this because I'm going to be using it to save my life. So there's the trust on the weaponry, back and forth, instead of relying on the high tech, to rely on what you know best and to use it to the best of your ability, and to form a trust between you and what you might need to kill, or the instrument you would use to kill. So we get this awesome advanced version of the suiting up scene. Rambo's packing up the various weapons. He's totally naked and nervous while he's preparing packs, like the parachute, the bow and arrow, packages strapped to his legs. He, dresses, applies camo paint to his skin, preps the knife, sharpening, etc., remembering the many times he's sutured and sewn himself up in the past with that weapon. And the description of the new knife in here is fantastic. It comes into play more than you'd think from the movie version. The handle's made from fishing line and thread, like in the handle hilt. Like, also a cool thing that you don't see much of is the sides of the hilt have screwdrivers built into them and Allen keys and stuff. And the black edge diamond blade to lessen the reflections off the surface, etc. If there's like light from the moon or light from a flashlight or something. And there's a note that the small shack he's in, he could easily cut through the plywood and thin metal that surrounds him. And we get this notion that Rambo's ready to do whatever is necessary to survive the mission he is about to undertake. And I just, like I was saying before, I love the First Blood reference. It makes it feel human, and it makes you feel scared for Rambo. And it really draws all these emotions that they forgot in the movies that made Blood 72 such a success. So we get a lot more of the flight scene as well, with a methed out lifer, Doyle and Erickson. And the hung up scene is also extended, cutting away his gear, you know. As well, we get an alternate look at the deleted halo jump scene, where Rambo has to keep his legs together as not to get sawed in half on a rock or a tree that he doesn't see in the night. And there's actually a whole conversation in the cockpit with Rambo and Erickson and all that. He like comes to the front and like looks down out of the plane, where they're looking, you know. And there's like the hung up scene is actually 10 times more gruesome. Like, Rambo really gets fucked up on the wing of that plane. He has during the halo scene, halo jump, he's coming down. I think he lost his helmet as well, but he's trying to like make sure like his landing's good, because like I said before, he doesn't, you know, he has to keep his legs together as not to get sawed in half on a rock or a tree or anything like a lot of people he's experienced seeing have done. He has a cool kind of landing with like this sweet roll, and it's really pretty cool. And then, you know, like buries the parachute and everything. The snake scene is way more vicious. He actually decapitates it and watches the still live head on the ground, biting at nothing, you know, biting at the essence of life and death. So he decapitates that fucking snake instead of strangling it to death, which is one we should add to the next PETA episode that we're going to do for Brent Whiteside. So there's an addition. Also, I'm not a big fan of snakes, so to see Rambo actually turn around with a knife and just chop that fucker's head off is pretty cool. There's a cooler scene with the compass is included in here at that point. And when he reaches the Watt, he senses it is very haunted. There are ghosts here for sure. So Rambo hooks up with Ko, almost decapitating her as well in the process. A lot more vicious than in the film version. You know, they make their way over to the pirates, who are a ton more evil and despicable. And that's my text message going off. Yeah, so the pirates are much more evil. He doesn't think Ko's going to be a woman, but Ko's a woman. It kind of throws him off a bit, and more later on. Yeah, so the pirates are a ton more evil and despicable in this version. They ride the sampan, which is full of old junk, TVs, VCRs, bikes, just junk everywhere. They get boarded at one point by the army, and Ko hides Rambo underneath a bunch of clutter. And Rambo's anxious while Ko pays off the pirates, who in turn pay off the army. Later on the boat, there's a great expendable speech, and I love their relationship is so deep in this novelization. Really beyond the sequel, and it should have been more explored in the film. Ko's name also means virgin, and there's some great jokes on that as well. You know, regarding her mother and such. Nothing, however, could be further from the truth, because we learn that Ko is not a virgin. We learn that she has a son, Nguyen, who lives in America with her brother, a trade she made to keep him safe. You know, her husband and father are dead, so, you know, it's really sad. But Rambo remarks that he probably, you know, is a heartbreaker in America, you know, in California, and may even have a surfboard. And in her innocence, it's so beautiful. She's like, what's a surfboard? And there's a lot of cute stuff like that. And if anything, you're going to fall in love with them all over again. And an even higher level of emotional love between them this time. The luck scene is also taken up a few notches. And eventually, once on land, Rambo and co make their way to the camp. There's an awesome ravine scene where, you know, Co and Rambo find themselves standing atop a bunch of crunchy ground, and Co thinks for a second that she stepped on a landmine, and Rambo inspects it in the moonlight, and they find themselves among tons and tons and tons of skeletons, American and Vietnamese, like more American because they describe the bones as being bigger. And it turns out that the Viet Cong didn't bother burying the American dead, rather dumped them in a huge hole. So it's pretty gruesome because now we know what we're dealing with and what Rambo's up against. And it's haunting because, you know, now not only does Rambo have to worry about himself, but Co is mixed in the equation as well. And like I was saying before about them letting Rambo be Rambo, you know, this time around, this is where it starts to shift the juxtaposition of everything, you know, because this is the no going back. You know, if they had the slightest inkling that Rambo was going to do whatever he needed to do to get out and get this done, that, you know, he's in it now. He's in the elements now. So that's very, very, very important to the plot, and, you know, like what you take away from the book without really noticing it in the movie versions. So this is very, 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 very important. So, you know, also that being said, that, you know, this is about making deals with the devil. You know, for sure Rambo's going to come up you know, in 10 seconds on the computer, because Rambo's been there and done that already. And yeah, he might want to be fueled to return. And yeah, he might want to help get some justice for what happened. But, you know, they could always play it off like, oh, he's just some crazy guy who did his own thing. They could erase all acknowledgement of his existence. Like I said before, Murdoch really was smiling when he said, we get to bend the rules when you're over there. Also meaning that they get to bend the rules and leave Rambo there again. You know, it's all about money at this point. You know, politicians never make a deal, because they will get in bed with you. But at the day, more importantly, it's about what they want for themselves. And for Rambo, it's about carving a way out now, you know. Like I said, it's the no going back. He's in the element. So it's very, very tricky. It's very, very, very tricky. And it's very smart. And they should have capitalized more on that in the film. You know, they should have really explored that territory more in the film. Even though Rambo 2 came off as a highly politically charged movie, I wonder what the phenomenon of Rambomania would be, you know, even with the presidency and everything, if it went those extra steps beyond that Morel has provided. You know, it's not just about what they can give him, the presidential pardon and freedom. It's about life and death in exchange, and what you're ready to do to survive and to save. And, you know, like on the airplane, he was at one point deciding he could just run off, you know, and like be free. But, you know, his 6-month stay in that camp, he could just imagine would have been like a weekend to what the POWs were going through. So Rambo is hell-bent on making some kind of difference. And like always in true Rambo fashion, it's not just about himself anymore.